Hello, everyone, and welcome to Fan Sports Varsity. I'm your host, Frank Langella, joined by my co-host, Marcelio Langella. Mars, this is our Week 2 game preview for Class CD in the Independent League, and it was fun to have a nice week of football, even through all the COVID stuff and some cancellations and stuff like that, but it's good to be back for another week. I'm excited to get going.
Yeah, man. I mean, I said in the previous videos, as long as we have a season where, as long as we get to play on the field, I mean, that's all you can ask for.
Yeah, absolutely. And we want to welcome our audience. We appreciate you guys tuning in. Again, follow us on Twitter, follow us on Instagram. You see on the banner. And I know there's some questions about reactions to the last week's games. Follow us on Twitter because that's where I give our reactions to the week. This is really just for the game previews for this upcoming week. Mars, but let's get right into it. All right. So the games on slate. We have a couple games on Thursday. Mount Vernon at Peekskill on Thursday. Poughkeepsie at Ossining on Thursday. And then a bunch of the other games are on Saturday with one on Sunday. So we have Irvington at Hastings, Crow Harmon at Briarcliff, Edgemont at Albertus Magnus, Dobbs Ferry at Bronxville, Blindbrook at Haldane, Woodlands at Tuckahoe, and then Sunday Valhala at Rye Neck. So that's the slate that we have. We're going to be picking a few of the games to break into, and then we'll pick all the games at the end. All right, so you ready for it?
Yeah, I'm ready to roll.
Let's do it. The first game I want to talk about, Mars, Irvington 1-0 at Hastings, who is 1-0. And because we're recording this game on Tuesday, they actually played today, and Hastings won 7-0. So a defensive slugfest for sure. But Irvington is 7-2 versus Hastings. They have won 7 straight in this matchup. Last time they played in 2019, Irvington beat Hastings 34-14 in 2019. And I'll just start with the away team in Irvington. Offensively, you're going to see them go into pistol. You'll see them go into center with the I formation. They'll go into some gun. But let's make no mistake about it. This offense runs through Anacarico, their running back. This guy is a really good running back, one of the best backs in the Independent League. And they like to run behind a decent-sized offensive line. I mean, he had 3 touchdowns last week, Mars. And then they go into the play action, right, with their quarterback, Aronson. On rollouts, they hit their tight end, Brereton, on a couple nice plays. I saw, and this kid's about 6'2", 6'3". So, you know, I'm expecting them to do something similar to what they did versus Croton Harmon, again, versus Hastings, who played pretty darn good defensively. So I think they're going to try to wear them down by running the football and then play action out of that, Mars. Defensively, it starts up front. I think their strength is in the front 7, led by Kim. They have to be able to create pressure up the gut if they can move the line of scrimmage, if they can control the line of scrimmage. I think they have a really good shot. Now, I am a little nervous about the weapons that Hastings has against the secondary, but I saw, Mendoza had a nice interception. I thought Irvington played pretty well in the passing game. So we're going to see. We're going to see which group wins, but Mars, what are your thoughts on Irvington?
Irvington's really just have to wear down the defense. I mean, they have skill players. I really think that they just have to utilize them by just winning the trench and allow them to kind of play around. I think as long as you kind of give them the ability to do so, they'll make the big plays. And defensively, their front 7 is pretty solid. They just have to make sure, just like on the offensive side of the game, control the line of scrimmage and allow your offense to get back on the field.
Going into Hastings, Marcel, offensively, what I saw Croton Harmon do well against Irvington was attack the edge. They did hit some nice plays on the edge, getting outside and containing. And I'm going to imagine Hastings does something similar. Now, they definitely have the weapons on the outside, the Rotori, Capuano. So I'm interested to see if Hastings is going to attack the edge of this Irvington defense because it's going to be tough up front. It's going to be hard to run between the tackles on this group. So that's where I'm thinking Hastings is going to go after. And defensively, Hastings rallied to the ball. I mean, they put a lot of pressure on Albertus Magnus. They pitched a shutout. So, this was a pretty solid performance by Hastings. I'm going to see them probably do something similar to what they did, is create a lot of pressure and make some plays to try to slow down this rush attack. It all starts with stopping that running back, Anacarico. Mars, what are your thoughts on Hastings?
Yeah, when you're looking at Hastings' offense, like you said, attack the edge. Yeah. Try to do something that Irvington has been having struggles on. And I think that's the kind of the biggest thing you have to look at when you saw how did they struggle against Croton Harmon. They really couldn't contain people from going out from the outside. I think by utilizing that weakness, it can really open up the offense. And defensively, it's really about owning the line of scrimmage. I mean, I feel like I keep saying this idea, but really in high school football, that's going to be the crucial thing. I mean, having the front 7 that Irvington has it's going to be difficult. The front offensive line, but at the end of the day, as long as they can win that battle, contain, it can kind of open up for Hastings.
Yeah, and for me, the matchup to watch is these Hastings linebackers versus the running back, Anna Carrico. I think that's going to be the bigger thing, and if Hastings has a chance, it's stopping that rush attack. Mars, let's go to our next game, Woodlands at Tuckahoe. Woodlands obviously didn't play due to the COVID issue. Tuckahoe defeated Blindbrook. Woodlands is 4-2 versus Tuckahoe. They have won 2 straight since 2004, or the last 2 meetings, excuse me. They're 4-2 since 2004. And the last time they played them in 2016, they won 33-0. But Tuckahoe is 6-2 at home the last 3 years. A good home team. We're going to see this clash between C and D. But let's start with Woodlands, Mars. Offensively, it is about speed. I'm expecting to see a lot of their kind of you're going to see a bunch of athletes at the quarterback spot. And it's going to be KJ Leak, who lines up at quarterback and running back, wide receiver, and Amir Young, who lines up at the same thing, quarterback, running back, wide receiver. They want to use their speed. They want to get on the edge because if they get into open field, these guys can hit home runs. But the biggest thing I'm watching is this offensive line and how much they improved from last year. They're bringing back a bunch of guys. I want to see that offensive line improvement. Guys led by Genova and Muhammad. Can they try to win up front versus a really solid front seven in Tuckahoe? Because that will be a huge difference if they can, because I think they have a speed advantage on their end. If they can get into open field, they could create some havoc. Defensively, Mars, they have to stop this potent Tuckahoe rush attack against a really solid offensive line. Tuckahoe has a really solid offensive line, brought back a bunch of starters. They obviously have one of the best backs in Myers, or Frank's finest. And even Liberati, who made some pretty nice plays in the rush game, they combined for 185 yards last week against Blindbrook and 4 touchdowns. So it's going to be relying heavily on these inexperienced linebackers, but led by Hargett, who is back. He was a Frank's finest at the outside linebacker spot, containing these guys. But inside linebacker, Atkins, the sophomore, the transfer from Stepinac. Geddes, the senior. You got to force Tuckahoe to be a throwing football team, Mars. What are your thoughts on Woodlands?
Yeah, Woodlands needs to just follow what their mantra is. Be speedy, spread out the defense, and then really make the play on that one-on-one matchups. I really think the offensive line is really going to dictate how successful this offense is going to be, obviously. So if they can improve, they can really do their job, then this might be an easy way for the offense to move the ball down the field. And defensively, it's really simple. Slow down the run. Allow your team to control the pace of the game, and then give your offense back the ball, and then let them work.
Yeah, and moving to Tuckahoe, Mars, offensively, Myers is one of the best backs, right? So you want to run with him behind this solid offensive line. I mean, he had 9 carries for 100-something yards. I mean, this guy was something else. But I don't think it's going to be easy running around them. I think what they're going to be most successful at is running right at them, right? Trying to use your power. That's what I feel they're going to be most successful, because they have that speed, right? So try to test their strength and run behind Myers, who could do a little both. He can run with strength, he can run with speed. So I think that's going to be really important, Mars. And then you can get those play actions off. So that's when I really think you test, you test this young, inexperienced linebacking core, and then you can hit some play action with Gerald, who had some success. So that's going to be key to them offensively. Defensively, again, you're containing big-time speed. So you really want to prevent big plays, right? Make them grind down the field. Make them, dink and dunk, get small yards. Make them do that consistently. But don't let them hit big plays. That's going to be big. I think they're going to bring some pressure, especially off the edge, try to force them to run between the tackles. You want to get guys as close to the line of scrimmage to make Woodlands, who, you have a bunch of athletes playing quarterback. Can they throw the ball? Right, that's what you want to see. You want to see that, test that ability. So that's what I'm expecting to see this front seven try to dominate. A guy like Cypher, who was all over the field last week, he's going to have to be very active again. So that's going to be Mars. What are your thoughts on Tuckahoe?
Well, yeah, when you look at Tuckahoe, I mean, Myers is really the show, right? He can kind of do it all, but like you mentioned, I think this week's going to be more about running downhill. I mean, keeping the control of the offense of the line of scrimmage to the offensive line.
How do you control speed? Running at it.
Yeah, just running right at you. I mean, I feel like Myers can do it all, which allows him to kind of do a lot of different things. And as you mentioned, the play action pass will probably open up because everyone's going to key in on Myers, and you really have to utilize, use the opportunity to make big plays. On the defensive side, it's really about keeping contained, just because Woodlands has this speed to them that can be very dangerous if you don't. And I think that as long as they can set the edge, keep everything to the inside, it could be a good day just for Tucko to kind of control the pace of this game.
Yeah, for me, the matchup, Mars, this Tucko offensive line that I am impressed with versus the Woodlands front seven. That's going to be the game, the game within the game, the matchup that I'm watching. Next game, Mars, Valhala at Rye Neck. Valhala obviously lost to Bronxville. Rye Neck did not play. They were scheduled for Woodlands, but a COVID issue came up with them. Rye Neck is actually 7-2 in this matchup since 2004. They have won 3 straight. The last time they played was in 2013. When the start of the season, when this matchup was stated, I circled this one. I started because this was going to be the duel between 2 great quarterbacks in Dawson and Falco. Right, but obviously Dawson got hurt last week. The expectation is obviously not playing. So the question is going to be, what does Valhala do at the quarterback spot? So let's start with them offensively, Mars. What do they do at the quarterback spot? I know Coach Troilo is going to have these guys ready. They're going to have them improved, but they're going to change their identity. I mean, they go into the spread because they have a guy who can sling it. I see them going more into a Wildcat type offense, going into more of the option stuff that you did see signs of last week, and rely on those their stud athletes. The biggest one being Mahari Davis. Get the ball into his hands as much as possible and in space. Right, that's going to be the biggest thing for them. That's what I would imagine they to do. I don't know if that's what's going to do, but I think they're going to give it to Mahari Davis. They're going to try and run more with Joe Nolan, and they're going to try to. Probably not have some deep balls, but they're going to try to get the hands into their tight end wide receiver, Melvin, on the edge as well. They're going to have to try to get a balanced attack because they don't have that reliance at the quarterback spot to just sling the ball all over the place anymore, right? So they're going to have to rely on a group effort, and I think you got to rely on those guys that I mentioned is going to be huge. And the big thing, the offensive line got to step up, right? I know it's a group that's going to be growing slowly together, but they got to step up. Right, they need them to step up now. Now the growth period, instead you were going to give them time to grow. Now you're almost at the point where we got to grow up fast on the offensive line spot, Mars. Defensively, I think the linebacking core really needs to step up. Melvin, O'Neal, Sullivan, and this defensive line has to create pressure. I think they really got hurt on quarterback runs and outside runs, which was surprising to me with this defense to have a team like Bronxville get on the edge consistently. So it was very surprising. Those guys definitely need to step up because Falco, if he's playing, he could throw it on you and he could darn sure run it, especially on the outside. And I think he's going to test the edge of this defense. That those guys are going to have to be big, creating pressure and stopping quarterback runs, Mars. What are your thoughts on Valhala?
Yeah, I feel like this is going to be really tough. I mean, losing your quarterback is going to really cause your team to have a facelift. And I really think the facelift is going to be, as you mentioned, focusing probably more on the Wildcat, focusing more on using option, and getting the ball into your best athletes. Yeah. I mean, Mahari Davis is definitely a guy you should definitely utilize, especially with your quarterback down. And really it's going to be up to the O-line. I think, especially with having Dawson down, you're going to have to really open up the lanes for your skill players to run the ball. And I think that's going to be really, if I was going to have my own matchup, it's going to be the offensive line really just having a battle within themselves, right? They need to make sure that they win the line of scrimmage moving forward. And when you take a look at the defense, they need to definitely bring the pressure to Falco. I mean, Falco is a very good quarterback, and if he has all day to throw, he's just going to torch you. So you really need to bring the pressure, make him make a mistake.
Yeah, and for Rye Neck, I mean, they had the COVID issue. How many practices have they had, right? So offensively, the show to me is Falco. Again, this is one of the best quarterbacks in the class. He can pass, he can run. He's going to test the edge of this Valhalla defense, similar to what Bronxville did with their quarterback. I would imagine Rye Neck is going to do it because he has some weapons. I'm really interested to see this offense because I felt before the season started, this could be one of the more potent offenses in the class. I'm interested to see what it looks like behind a veteran offensive line. Because I think they could put up some points. And if they make it a race, especially a quarterback race, they could find a way to win this game. So I'm interested to see what happens. And, the big thing to me is obviously they have to protect the quarterback, right? Because Valhalla has some skill guys. I know they lost Dawson, but they still have a bunch of skill guys, especially in the defense, and they can get after the quarterback. So I think they're definitely going to step up from last week. And it's going to be big protecting the quarterback because if he can give Falco, if Falco's playing and they're giving him protection, he could be one of the most deadliest forces in this class. Defensively, this is the biggest question of the team, Mars. They struggled last year defensively. It was the question coming into this season, who's going to step up defensively? Who's going to be the guy that leads this defense? And that's going to be the big question. right? That's what I want to see because I think Valhalla will find more success. They're going to change their identity, and I think they will find success. But that's what I want to see. That's what I want to see. So, Marsh, what are your thoughts on Rye Neck?
Yeah, when it comes to offense, I mean, Falco is the show, and I think giving him the ability to kind of sit in the
And he has
pocket-
weapons.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I just think that he is probably the biggest key player of this offense, and I think that if you give him time to throw with all these weapons you have around him, it's going to be a long, long day for Valhalla. I mean, defensively, when you look at Rye Neck, it's going to be a question mark. I really do agree with you, but the fact is, you need to see who's going to step up and be the leader of this team.
Yeah.
And if you have a solid defensive core that holds the line of scrimmage, allows the pace to be on the favor of Rye Neck, then I really do think Falco and the rest of his squad are going to score points. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens with Valhalla and how they react to losing their quarterback. But I think that right now the momentum is in Rye Neck's favor.
Interesting. Are you giving a little tidbit? My matchup, Mars, is obviously this Rye Neck pass attack versus Valhalla secondary. That's going to be the key. Finally, Mars, let's go to our game of the week. And our game of the week this week is a C matchup. Dobbs Ferry 1-0 at Bronxville. I'm really excited for this game on Saturday. But Dobbs Ferry has owned this matchup. I mean, they are 10-4 since 2004 versus Bronxville. They've won 2 straight, but the last time they played them was in 2016. And obviously last week, Dobbs Ferry beat Haldane and Bronxville beat Valhalla. It was both impressive victories. But let's start with Dobbs Ferry offensively. They run the option. And, what really impressed me was the offensive line. They did a really good job moving guys, creating lanes for the offense. They're going to have to step up again this week because it's going to be definitely a jump up in talent, for sure. But Dobbs Ferry is creating a bit of a 3-headed monster here. Right, they have the 2 Dans. Right, they have their fullback Brian Dan, who was a center last year. Mars moved to fullback. Isn't that everybody's dream?
Right,
they had one Dan go from lineman to quarterback, and another Dan go from center to fullback. I mean, that Dobbs Ferry is a lineman's dream. But he had 5 touchdowns last week, Mars. 5 touchdowns, 94 yards rushing. But to me, I think the engine and heart of this offense is Harry Dan, the quarterback. Right, he is tough. He's gritty. He runs like he's 200 pounds, even though he might be $170 soaking wet. But he runs hard, and he has some good speed to him. He really is the engine of this offense. But they also have that edge attack with McGovern, and he's their home run hitter. In the passing game and on pitch sweeps, he makes a lot of plays on the edge as well. He had 103 yards rushing. So they're really going to test the discipline of Bronxville's defense because they have the weapons to break tackles, to make some plays. And if they do, if they can get Bronxville off balance, they can hit some home run plays and they can make it difficult. The offense exploded last week for Dobbs Ferry. I'm really interested to see them against a jump up in competition. Defensively, Mars, you're going to see a lot of double wings. You're going to see some spread attacks. They're going to attack the C gap. They like to pull linemen and attack the edge. They got to stop that man, Henry Donahue, because that's a bad man. So they got to stop him. That's going to be the first thing. And the second thing is prevent the quarterback design runs, right? O'Neal was really impressive, both with his arm and leg. We'll get into him, but the way that he beat them with his legs, especially when things weren't going well, and even on design quarterback runs, that was the dagger for a defense. And I'm expecting them to do something similar, and it's going to be important for them to keep the quarterback contained. Mars, what are your thoughts on Dobbs Ferry?
Well, Dobbs Ferry, as you said, kind of has a 3-headed monster. I mean, I think they just have a very dynamic offense. I think in general, I mean, they run the option, yeah, for sure, but they just think they have a lot of skill guys that can hurt you in many different ways. I mean, the Dans are very. It's impressive to see how they were able to move from one position to being now becoming crucial members of this offense and how it moves forward. But I really think it has to do a lot with the offensive line too. I think that they need to kind of own the line of scrimmage and allow for the Dans to kind of burst open like they did last week. Defensively, I mean, Henry Donahue is going to be a very difficult person to stop. And he's going to be the one that you really need to key in on. But I think it really has to do with bottling up, allowing him to kind of stay inside, and that's
run between the tackles.
Run between the tackles, keep him. Yeah, but
Henry is a bull, man.
He is, but I'm just saying you're gonna have to keep him down pat. And unfortunately, it's easier said than done, to say the least. But you have to limit how Henry is going to stop you. Yeah, that's the thing. Limit what Henry does to you. It allowed for the other players that kind of around him to have to make the big plays. And then from there on out, I think the Dans can score points.
Yeah. Before we go to Bronxville, Mars, I did do an offensive breakdown on Dobbs Ferry, and we'll let the audience see what I mean by this three-headed monster. For this video, we're going to talk about Dobbs Ferry's option offense and the three-headed monster they have that really gives defenses fits, and it did in week 1. But I got to say, when you run the option offense, it really tests the discipline of the defense, as a lot of the motions and the movements are similar, but they have plays that are off series of each other that attack up the gut, at the C-gap, and out on the edge. And, you can't run all these plays in series without an offensive line that moves people. And Dobbs Ferry's offensive line had a very good week last week, and they're going to need to have another good week for them to have a chance to win. But let's go over the series and the three-headed monster on Dobbs Ferry. Let's start with the fullback, Brian Dan. And this guy, he was a center last year, and they moved him to fullback. This kid had 5 touchdowns last week. It's because he runs with power. And you're going to see, they're going to motion. They have a tight end to the right. They're going to motion. He's going to reverse pivot, and they're going to hand it off on a dive to the fullback. Okay, common play in this option offense. Watch him run with power right here. You're going to see this kind of movement. All right, nice chunk of yards. All right, now the defense is going to have to tackle him, but you're going to have to bring bodies. Right, you're going to have to rally to the football. Dobbs Ferry has dangerous weapons. If you can't tackle them one-on-one, they will hurt you. There's one missed tackle. That's not going to cover. This kid's too strong. He just runs through 3 people and scores a touchdown. Again, from the top. You got to be able to tackle. You got to be able to stay disciplined on defense. Dobbs Ferry takes advantage of those who don't. There's a missed tackle. There's another missed tackle. There's a third missed tackle and a fourth into the end zone. Let's go to the second-headed monster, Harry Dan, the quarterback. I think the heart and soul and engine of this offense. But here we go again. Tight end left. They got a wing. They're going to motion the wing. This time, they're going to fake the dive. Quarterback keep. They're going to try to get some seals out on the edge. Watch Harry Dan. He runs with aggression, runs with power, breaks tackles. You got to be able to tackle these guys one-on-one. Look, there's another missed tackle. There's a missed tackle. Look at the stiff arm there. That's a grown man run. We see that often with these Dobbs Ferry backs. Again, watch him. Looks all the same. All the motions look the same. That's just awesome. Let's go to the final head of this three-headed monster, and that's McGovern out on the edge. Again, we see a similar formation. Tight end right with the wing. They're going to motion the wing. You're going to see a reverse pivot. They're going to fake the dive, but this time quarterback's going to roll out, but it's not a design run. It's actually a pass. You're going to see an out route. But again, because you see this play over and over and over and over again, the defense will get sucked in, and that's where the play action opens this up. Here's a reverse pivot. Look at the rollout, and now the defense all staring up, all attacking the line of scrimmage. It's going to leave this guy wide open, and that's where they attack. Nice little flip to McGovern. Touchdown. Again, watch it from the top. All looks the same. Everything looks the same. Testing the discipline of the defense. And that's how they hurt you. Nice little play fake, nice little flip, and there's a touchdown. Dobbs Ferry has this three-headed monster mixed with a solid play from the offensive line. Poses a big threat to defenses. I'm interested to see how they attack this Bronxville front and if they can cause the Bronxville team to be undisciplined. All right, Mars, let's move to Bronxville, and offensively, let's just start off with the quarterback, right? What a performance, what an opening performance by the quarterback, O'Neal, the junior. He made some really nice play with his arm, with his legs. He's another playmaker, and he adds a new dimension. And what I mean by adding a new dimension and dynamic to this offense is because not only is he a playmaker, right? Not only does he make plays with his arms and legs, but I think he does something even more important, and that's move Henry to his more comfortable spot, which is the running back spot, Mars, where Henry, he was the most dangerous and I think the best player on the field last week, both teams. Henry is one of the best players in Section 1, and he could be arguably the best player in Class C. And he really showed he was dominant, right? And that's what I think that move really does. It makes him into a more comfortable spot at the running back spot where he can run downhill, he can run on the edge, he can make plays out of the backfield. And that's what I think this duo can create some really headaches. And they have some weapons around it, right? So it really opens up this offense for a lot. And it makes Bronxville one of the more potent rush attacks. And I think they're going to attack the way they're just going to play their game, right? They're going to run downhill with Henry. They're going to run outside with Henry. I think they get Connor Randall back this week, who I thought was playing last week, but he didn't. He can attack you on the edge. And then they're going to run with O'Neal and run play action with O'Neal. I also thought their weapons made some nice plays in the passing game, catching the football on some tough catches. This is a tough offense to stop. And I think that they're going to really test all aspects of Dobbs Ferry. Defensively, Mars, again, going up against the option offense, it's really going to test the discipline of your defense at all three levels. Right? It's going to test your three technique. So you got a guy like McCormick. It's really going to test your edge, like Raimundo on the edge with quarterback runs in the C-gap. And your linebackers, right? Donahue, Murray, and then your second contain. So it tests all levels and makes sure you're seeing the same motions over and over and over again, trying to get you to look into the backfield so that they can hit you on the outside. Or they can hit you with play action. Stay true to your keys. That's going to be the biggest thing. And if they can, right, I think they'll make it difficult for Bronxville to explode like they did. I think they will have them bottle up because I think they have the speed and the talent at each level to do so. Marsh, what are your thoughts on Bronxville?
The fact that O'Neal is now creating this new dynamic between him and Henry Donahue is definitely a dangerous thing to do. I mean, and we said this in the team preview.
Yeah.
If he played well, this is now making the offense just even more lethal.
It was the X factor.
Yeah, it was the X factor of the season. And I think that's what it is. Henry Donahue is where he belongs at running back, and he can now do it all. I mean, when it comes to how should they be playing, I really think that you need to have solid play by both Henry Donahue attacking the edges and just attacking downfield, and O'Neal making those play action passes to kind of open up. Make the defense try to figure out what the heck you're doing. Yeah, because they're going to key on Henry Donahue. And it's really, if O'Neal can play like he did last week, I mean,
it's tough.
It's tough to kind of stop it. Yeah. Defensively, I mean, we said this before, any type of option offense is to stay disciplined. You need to make sure that you have every single option back is accounted for. And one person that makes a mistake, it could be your downfall. So at the end of the day, as long as they stay disciplined and make Dobbs Ferry have to make big plays, it can really benefit your offensive pace. Yeah,
and Bronxville actually, sticking with the defense, before we go to clip, they actually saw some option from Valhalla. So, the best way, and we talked about this on previous shows, to play against option is practice. Yeah. They actually got some game reps against option. So I don't think they're going to be surprised. And I think you'll see similar 8-man boxes with 6-man front from Bronxville. But I did do a breakdown on Bronxville's defense and what they could do to potentially stop this three-headed monster. For this video, I'm going to talk about Bronxville's defense and how they may try to stop the Dobbs Ferry option offense. And they did a tremendous job against Valhalla last week, and they actually saw some option offense, which might give a good preview on how they're going to stop Dobbs Ferry. And, they not just stop them by schematically lining up and loading the box, but also they were disciplined. They attacked the reads that they were supposed to attack. They stayed in their lanes, and the most important, they tackled well in open field. And we're going to go over a couple plays. I mean, right from the get-go, this is a similar formation that you will see from Dobbs Ferry, right? 2 wings, 2 receivers. Sometimes they will bring in a tight end as well. So it's not exactly the same, but similar concept. And you can see what Bronxville's doing right here. 6-man front, 8-man box. They're trying to take away the run, right? On this play, they're going to run a dive to the fullback, okay? And they're going to test the 3 technique defensive tackle. Okay, they're going to be reading him. They're going to get a motion, and we're going to see, right? Stay disciplined. He's going to attack the mesh point. He actually does a really good job. Look at him explode off the line of scrimmage and attack the mesh point. Pretty much tackles 2 guys. That's because he takes the right angle, and he makes the play. He attacks the correct read. He just blows that play up. Let's go to another play. Same thing. Right, similar formation, double wing. Again, 6-man front, 8-man box. This time, they're going to fake the dive. Quarterback is going to keep. They're going to run an option where he could pitch to the wingback. Now let's see. We're going to test who's got the C gap, who's got the D gap. Okay? Watch the defense flow. There's the fake dive, and look at this. He attacks the C gap. He's responsible for the quarterback. The D gap, he's responsible for the pitch. Now, can you make the play one-on-one? There's one guy makes the play, and now can you tackle an open field against a good back? That's a great job. Let's go from the top. And watch them flow. This is going to be really important. Stay disciplined and make plays in open field. Stop this Dobbs Ferry offense. Let's go to the final play. Now, again, we talk about tackling an open field. They have one of the best tacklers in the league in Henry Donahue. This guy can clean up plays when people make mistakes. So again, similar. Now this formation with a tight end to the right. Okay, they're going to get a motion. This time they're going to pitch the ball. Try to attack the edge. Okay, watch the range on the linebackers. Watch Henry make this play. Okay. Again, you don't want to miss tackles, but look at Henry. He knows how to clean it up. Got one of the best players in the section. It's nice when you have one of those. And from the top. 6-man front. They go for the pitch. Got to make that tackle in open field. You can't have broken tackles, but again, look at the rally. Look at all these guys. Bronxville is going to have to stay disciplined and tackle well for them to stop this Dobbs Ferry option offense. And if they can, I think they'll have a great chance to win. All right, Mars, the matchup for this game, and then we'll go to the player, and then we'll pick the games. The matchup for me is this Dobbs Ferry offensive line that played really well last week. Can they do it again against this Bronxville front? That's going to be big. The Bronxville D-line. Because they were very explosive. They caused a lot of havoc. I mean, that edge player, Raimundo, he was creating some serious problems for Valhala's offense. I mean, he was very impressive on the edge, number 81. But to me, the player to watch is that guy I just mentioned, Raimundo. He was causing havoc. He made some sacks. He made some nice plays on the edge. This kid can create another dynamic in this defense. Just another playmaker on the edge for this defense. Could definitely make this Bronxville defense even more potent. Mm-hmm. And their defensive coordinator, he's got to be salivating with the type of play that he got from the edge defender. All right, Mars, let's go to the game picks. You ready for them?
Yeah, I'm ready to roll.
All right, first game up, Mount Vernon at Peekskill. Mount Vernon forfeited last week. They played Ramapo in a modified scrimmage. But I do think they get the loss via forfeit. I think that's how the rules work. But so we'll say they're 0-1. They're at Peekskill, who is 1-0. To me, I'm going with Peekskill for this one. I think the Peekskill is going to start 2-0. The coaching did a really good job. They play really fast. I think it'll be a little too much Tinsley, a little too much quarterback Ritter. They have a nice little duo, and the offensive line did a solid job. I think it will continue this week, and I think Peekskill will start 2-0, Mars.
Yeah, I'm going to go the same thing. I think Peekskill has been, like I said before last week, actually, there's a new feeling, there's new life behind the new momentum that's being carried. And I really think that the win last week on their new field and everything definitely is kind of pushing them forward. And I really like the way they play fast, they play aggressive, and I think they're going to win in this one.
Next up, Poughkeepsie, 0-1 at Ossining, who didn't play a game yet, Mars. I'll start it off. I think Ossining will be very solid up front, but I'm going to go with Poughkeepsie. I think Poughkeepsie's speed is going to be the factor in this one. And running back like Sam Moore, who had a big touchdown run last week, expect to see some outside runs on him and to test the speed of Ossining. I'm going to go with Poughkeepsie with the victory on this one.
I'm going to go with Ossining. I really like the front. I kind of, it's going to be a fight. I think it's going to be a fight to a very close game. I just think that Ossining has the advantage when it comes to their front, owning the line of scrimmage. And I really think that they can really keep the pace of the game in their favor, and they can just kind of wear and tear.
Yeah, it's going to be strength for speed. We'll see who comes out. Mars, Irvington 1-0 at Hastings, who's also 1-0. We did the breakdown on this one, Mars. I think Hastings got some really nice weapons. Rotori, Capuano scare me. But I'm going with Irvington. I think Irvington goes 2-0, and it's because they're going to win the trenches, and they're going to run the ball, and they're going to create some pressure for Hastings' defense, who offense did struggle to score points. So I think they'll put pressure on the defense of Hastings, and I think the defensive front seven is going to cause some havoc for Hastings, and I think Irvington will make a couple more plays, and they're going to pull out the victory.
Yeah, I'm going to stick with Irvington too. I think the fact is the offensive line and really front seven owning the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball is really what's going to set the pace of this game and really have it in favor of Irvington. I really think that's their game plan. Let's own the trenches and let's keep this pace in our favor.
Yeah, absolutely. Next one, Mars, Croton Harmon, 0-1 at Briarcliff, who was 1-0. Briarcliff had one of the most impressive victories last week against Edgemont. But Croton Harmon was a very gritty team last week, and I thought Grease was really solid on both sides of the ball. I think I'm interested to see him continue that play. He was really impressive to me. But I think Briarcliff just has too many weapons. And their quarterback, Milano, got the job done. I thought he did a solid job getting the ball to his weapons. But when you have Savage and Morrow or Spoli with that veteran offensive line, this offensive attack is deadly for Briarcliff. And I just think it's a little too much for Croton Harmon. I'm going to take Briarcliff.
Yeah, I'm going to stick with Briarcliff as well. A lot of weapons. It's really hard to bottle them all up. Yeah. And I just think that that's going to be just too much for Croton Harmon to really stay in pace with.
Yeah. Next one, Edgemont 0-1 at Albertus Magnus. Which team is going to get their first victory, Mars? I'll let you go first.
I'm probably going to go Albertus Magnus. I kind of like this squad. It's tough because Edgemont kind of had a really struggle last week and definitely going to play a lot better. I just think that it's going to be a kind of a tough road ahead. And I think that this is a very important game for both programs. I really think they're both vying for that victory. But I'm going to stick with Albertus Magnus on this one.
Yeah. I'm going to go with Edgemont. And I think Edgemont is going to have a bounce-back game. And I think the important players on this team are really going to show out, right? So those are going to be the most important thing for those key players to step up in this game, those veteran players, the team that came back from last year from this roster to really show out versus Albertus Magnus and kind of get them back on track with this coaching staff. I think they're going to come together. They're going to make some big-time plays. Albertus Magnus did struggle on offense, but they also had a bunch of reduced practice time. So the more they practice, the better they will be during all this COVID issue. So I think this will be a close game, like you said, but I do think Edgemont pulls it out in the end and makes a few more plays. Let's go to the next one, Mars. Blindbrook 0-1 at Haldane, who's also 0-1. I'll go first on this one. I'm going to go with Haldane. I'm really happy Blindbrook's playing football. I think it's great. I mentioned this a couple times already. I hate hearing when programs don't build a team and have to sit out a season. I think it's terrible because football's a great sport and you want to give the student athletes a chance to play. But I just think they struggled to stop the run against Tuckahoe, and I'm expecting to see a lot of Santos run from Haldane, and it'll be a little too much for Blindbrook. I think Haldane gets back on track and they pull the victory in this one.
Yeah, I'm sticking with Haldane as well. It kind of just feels like a really tough spot for Blindbrook because they struggled to really stop the run, and Haldane's just going to do that. And I feel like it's just going to be a really just difficult matchup in general. And I think Haldane is going to pull away from this one.
Next one up, Woodlands. We did the breakdown 0-0 at Tuckahoe, who's 1-0, Mars. I'll let you go first. Who's going to pull the victory on this one? I think this is going to be a real interesting one.
Yeah, it definitely is going to be interesting. I'm going to stick with Tuckahoe. I think that Myers is a very dynamic back. He kind of can do it all. He can attack you straight on or attack the outside. I just think that Tuckahoe is going to kind of utilize the strength that they have. I don't think they're going to want to test the speed of Woodlands because they have it in spades. I just think that having dynamic players like Myers is going to give you the advantage. And they have to defensively be the bend but don't break. Right? Yeah. You're going to give them plays, but you can't allow big time plays to happen.
I'm going to go with Woodlands. I think Woodlands is going to get this victory, and I think the line will be improved. I'm interested to see it, and I'm going to put my hopes into the line being improved, and they're going to need to be because then Tuckahoe is going to cause some havoc. But I think that with the speed advantage that they have and with an improved offensive line, I think they will create some nice big-time plays with those athletes that I talk about. And I think that although inexperienced linebacking core is, I think it might create a dynamic for the defense. I think they'll be improved. They won't be the same because of the veteran leadership that they lost last year. But I don't think the drop-off will be as big as what people think. So that's kind of the hope that I'm going on. I could be wrong on this one, but that's the feeling I have, and I'm taking Woodlands to win this game, Mars. The next one, Valhala at Rye Neck. Valhala, they're trying to get their first one of the season. Rye Neck getting their first game of the season, Mars. I'll let you go first. Who's pulling the victory?
I'm going Rye Neck. I think that Dawson getting hurt is definitely causes Valhalla to lose a dynamic player that they need to kind of keep this offense going. Falco is one of the best quarterbacks in this class, and I really think that him being there along with the other skill players they have around are definitely going to add to this offensive weaponry. And I just think defensively, when you're looking at what Rye Neck needs to do against Valhalla, let's just say they run into Wildcat or they run the option, and you can limit the amount of, how much yards they get on the run. And the question is going to be, how are you going to pass it? Like, who's going to be the quarterback and how well do they do stepping in that spot? And that's going to be the big question. And the issue is one side has more questions than the other. I'm picking Rye Neck here.
Yeah. This was a tough one. I went back and forth on this quite a bit. I'm going to go with Valhala, and I think Valhalla is going to win. I think they have a really good coach. I think they have a good coaching staff. I think they're going to rebound from the game that they had. I know Dawson is a huge loss for this team, and Rye Neck has potentially a very potent offense. But Rye Neck hasn't had much practices. I mean, they went to COVID protocol. You have to be out 10 days, right? So you have a very select few of practices. How much time have they spent together is the big question to me. So I think rust is going to be big for Rye Neck. I definitely think Rye Neck has some impressive players and will get better as the season goes on. But this is a tough first game for them. And that's why I think Valhalla, with the coaching staff, with one game under their belt, looking to rebound, I think Valhalla is going to get their first victory. Finally, marks the game of the week. Dobbs, Ferry, 1-0 at Bronxville, also 1-0. Does the three-headed monster win, or does the Bronxville pretty much plethora of weapons, do they come out on top? You can go first on this one.
Well, the big thing you have to understand between these two opponents is that they have just so many different dynamic weapons, right? Each team has their slew of talent.
Yeah.
You have, obviously, Bronxville has O'Neal. You have, Henry Donahue is definitely the key player to look out for. Dobbs Ferry has the Dans, right? You have
and McGovern.
And McGovern. You have a lot of guys on both sides that you can point to. I think I'm going to go with Dobbs Ferry, though. I think the reason why is because Dobbs Ferry's offense is going to be based around keeping the pace in your favor. And I think that this game will be over quickly. And I think that Dobbs Ferry is going to try to hold the ball in their possession and really try to wear down Bronxville as much as possible and try not to give the ball to their offense so that they can have a chance to make these big plays. I think Dobbs Ferry is going to try to limit the mistakes, and they're going to hope that Bronxville does make mistakes, especially on the defensive side, and allow for Dobbs Ferry to kind of wear and tear a little bit at a time using the dance. And I think that they're going to pull away in a very close game, but very quick game. I'm picking Dobbs Ferry.
In close games, I always love to go to the best player that I feel is on both teams. And so I'm going to go with Bronxville because I think Henry, in big-time games, big-time players come up to play. He came last week, same with Connor O'Neal, and I think he will again this week. And the return of potentially Connor Randall is going to be a big upgrade out on the edge and at free safety. So I thought the secondary of Bronxville played really well last week, and now you're adding another player, another good player out there. I mean, Bronxville could be one of the more complete teams, especially if they prove they come with the same tenacity that they did against Valhalla. This could be a statement, another statement game for them in Class C. And I think they're going to. I don't think this will be a blowout. I think Dobbs Ferry is a well-coached football team with some hard-nosed, gritty football players. So I think it will be close for a while, but I think Bronxville pulls away. I think they just have too much talent, and Bronxville is going to come away this week as not the starting point as the bona fide team of Class C. That's what I think. All right, everyone, that was our show. I want to appreciate everyone for tuning in. I hope you guys have a sports and safe week, and we're looking forward to seeing you all very soon.